welcome back to 237, back with another review. As I continue my sort of marathon of the more extreme horror, more extreme films, and this is one that I recently picked up, yet another film released through Unearthed Films. Most of what I picked up recently is through Unearthed Films. But this one was directed by Marcus Koch, who directed the second American Guinea Pig film, Bloodshock, and actually has some of the creative team behind it. So it does have a similar look, but this film's much earlier. This was from 2007. And this is one of those rare films that received and maintains its NC-17 rating, which even today is kind of not really heard of. It mostly just gets like a not rated rating. Although a lot of people have questioned its NC-17 rating because there's no graphic sex or nudity. There's not even a scene of nudity. It's basically just for its graphic violence. So if it's getting NC-17 for just the gore and violence, it's got to have something to it. And I think this is the only one so far of this little extreme marathon I've done that's actually considered a slasher film. So that's pretty cool. It's certainly a splatter film, but if you were to call it a slasher, it would make sense. And that is the 2007 killer clown film 100 Tears. Now, this is the alternative cover that it came with. This is the one that it had when I bought it, which is okay, but this just looks a bit more vintage, so I like that one more. And yeah, this is the extended director's cut. I'm not sure what was added, but it runs at 97 minutes. I don't know if it will say how long the original release was. 88, so I guess 5 minutes have been added. But yeah, directed by Marcus Koch, who directed American Guinea Pig Bloodshock. I believe he's a part of or is head of Autopsy FX Group, which did at least, I think, the first 3 American Guinea Pig films. Certainly Bouquet and Bloodshot. It was written by Joe Davison, who's also the male lead in the film, along with Georgia Chris and Jack Amos. Jack Amos playing Gertie, our killer clown. And Rain Brown, who I guess has become kind of a scream queen or been in a number of films in this realm of ultra low budget underground films. This is the only one I've seen her in. But yeah, I was wondering what year this came out because Gertie's suit is awfully close to Art the Clown's. Just a black and white color scheme, but his is white with black diamonds, whereas Art's is just white, black sleeve, black, white leg, kind of checkered. Even his paint scheme, which is just all white, which is the black dot on the nose, is similar to Art. Of course, this came out 10 years earlier. And I've said before, I'm not the biggest fan of killer clown movies. I think they're just, to me, more of a gimmick. I mean, they're a definite sell for tickets or for copies because people just love killer clowns so much. I mean, you can release a Joker movie a year and people will be in the seats. And, I think that's one reason why it is as popular as it is. And I think both versions of it are overrated. I know it's an unpopular opinion, but I love Terrifier. I guess technically because Art is more so of a mime than a clown, and mimes can be creepy. I guess the same could be said for him because he is silent, which I think does add some character, but that's really the only character that Gertie has, which is one of my flaws. I do like Stitches. Stitches is a fun movie. But the only one I can say I love would be Terrifier. This film as flawed as it is, and don't get me wrong, it is flawed. It is fun. It is entertaining. This is a slasher film that delivers. Now, a lot of people will say, as good as the kills might be, as high as the body count might be, people will dock slashers for acting or story. I don't really need those in a slasher film. They don't hurt if they're good, but in the realm of this, I mean, the budget was $75,000, and even then, that looks a little expensive for what we have, because this is a shot-on-video movie. It looks like other things put out by Unearthed. It has similar production quality to at least Bloodshock and Sacrifice of American Guinea Pig. It looks better than some shot-on-video movies. It does have some kind of filter to make it look like a movie, not just some backyard movie. But in the realm of films like this, you kind of got to expect bad acting. And yes, this across the board is bad acting. The only one that might be passable might be a little person, Drago, who serves as exposition to our main characters, played by Norberto Santiago. He might be the best actor. But it's a slasher splatter film, so the only thing that really needs to deliver are the kills and the gore, which this movie does tenfold. I've talked about slashers that have great kills consistently. I've talked about slashers that might have like a kill in the beginning and then a couple here and there, then a climax. I've talked about slashers that have nothing. Then in the last 10-15 minutes, they'll give us 5 or 6 kills. This movie has, in its 97-minute runtime, which I did my math wrong, 9 minutes is added, not 5. So, before you correct me in the comments, 9 minutes. In that runtime, I believe there's somewhere between 25 and 30 kills. Some might be off screen. A couple might be off screen. 2 were in a flashback, but still, at least 24 kills in your slasher film. It definitely delivered the slashing. And almost every kill, you just get geysers of blood or intestines or decapitations or limbs getting chopped off. This is a bloody, gory movie. This definitely delivered on the gore. This is something like, what was one that I reviewed recently where I kind of said the same thing. Hanger, maybe? I don't know. I've done a handful of these already. I'm kind of starting to forget my own opinions, but where it's really the only reason why you would watch it. Even though I know this movie does have a cult following, like there are people that love this movie, and I can see why. I mean, it's certainly entertaining. It is intended to be like a black comedy. It does have humor. Not all the humor lands for me. One scene I'm sure people will find silly is when he goes to pick up his long-lost daughter. And there is this kind of clowny, like, as he's chasing around the house. It's meant to be humorous. So, I mean, I do let it slide for that. And plus, a killer clown movie should have some dark humor. I mean, even Terrifier does. But one major flaw I will give it, even though the body count is there tenfold and the gore is definitely present, would be the character of Gertie the Clown. This is a role that could have been played by anybody. Or the way he's played in the performance, he could have been played by anybody. He doesn't have any kind of personality, or he doesn't really have any kind of character. He's just a big old guy dressed as a clown. The only kind of character he has other than his costume is this cartoonishly big meat cleaver that I thought was a great idea. Give this clown just a cartoonishly big weapon that he uses for pretty much all his victims. But even Art the Clown, who's silent, he does still do stuff. He does do stuff that's darkly humorous or goofy. He'll make faces, or he'll kind of like he'll do something. Gertie, not so much. Like it's kind of a stuntman role. Like think of like someone Kane Hodder might play. Well, I can't say that because Kane Hodder does put a lot of personality into Jason and Victor Crowley, but you know what I mean. There's really no character to Gertie, and which really does kind of dampen it. It would have been more interesting to see someone maybe bring more of that clown element. Now, I'm not saying he has to be goofy or silly, but bring some sort of personality, bring a character. The story is really nothing. I mean, like I said, the story is there is something there. There's something pulling the film along, which is these two reporters. I guess they're a couple. Mark and Jen, played by Joe Davison, who's also the writer, and Georgia Davis. They're looking for a story. They find a link of this recent killing, which is the opening of the film, at this halfway house where he kills almost a dozen people. This isn't like the first 10 minutes. He kills a handful of people. I mean, he takes that cleaver across one woman's stomach, and we just see all her intestines pour out with a ton of blood. He decapitates a crackhead girl in a wheelchair, and then just pushes the wheelchair down the stairs, which I thought was awesome. He hits one guy like 5 times in the face with it, so we see his face kind of like linked. And yeah, it does look shoddy. I mean, not so much the effects, but like the lighting. One reason why you can tell the budget, or you can see the budget, is it looks like all natural lighting. Some scenes are incredibly difficult to see. Also, the sound design. This movie's so difficult to hear. I mean, other than Joe Davison, who speaks kind of loudly, but like Georgia Chris, her character, the little person Drago, like a lot of the dialogue is so hard to hear, but the sound effects are super loud. Just, the sound design was terrible, and yeah, the lighting is really bad. It's hard to see a lot of stuff, but it is what it is. It's a shot on video movie. So they're looking for a hot story. They work for some asswipe tabloid, and they find that there's a connection between this halfway house killing and these murders that have been going on for 20 years from the teardrop killer, who's this killer that will draw a teardrop in blood on the wall. Gertie is a sad clown, a teardrop clown. Now, I was wondering if the title 100 Tears had something to do with how many victims he has, which would make sense. Or, hell, with how high the body count is, if they try to pull off 100 kills in the movie. I wouldn't have been surprised with that. And people can say maybe he had 100 victims, but even in the beginning, when Jen is at the computer, and she's talking about, oh, there's this teardrop killer. Some murders here, some murders 20 years ago, and since 168 cases have been linked to teardrop. So they already went above and beyond the 100, so I'm not quite sure what the title means. But, so they're just going around asking people if they know anything. One of which is this guy, Drago, which there's a long chase scene with this guy, Joe Davison, and the little person Drago, which is very humorous. This high-speed foot chase. And really, Drago's the only one that has anything interesting to say, which is the backstory of Gertie. Which, this was another thing I found weird, because this movie sells itself, at least to me it did, on being a revenge film about this clown that gets wrongfully accused of something and goes after those who accused him. That's not really the case. In present day, he just goes around killing people. Now, Drago tells us that 20 years ago, and we get this in flashback, he was seeing a girl, and now, I actually kind of had to look it up because it was so hard to hear and make out what they were saying. Something about how the girl he was seeing, Tracy, was also seeing the strong man of the circus, and her friend didn't like it. So she told the strong man that Gertie was raping Tracy, the girlfriend. And then he just went beat the hell out of him. But I also heard that he was dating this girl, Tracy. Her friend, Roxanne, was jealous that she was spending all her time with Gertie. So she told the strong man that he was raping Tracy. He goes and beats the hell out of him. So he strangles Roxanne, stabs the strong man through the neck and out the mouth with a Bowie knife. Drago and this old man cover it up, and basically his MO has been traveling with the circus, but outside the circus, as this killer clown, just killing everyone he can while the circus is in that town. And now they're back at their hometown. He's hiding out at this warehouse, and he's going around killing people. That's literally the story, the whole movie. And Mark and Jen are just going around trying to get this story for their tabloid. So I thought this was going to be more of like a revenge film, but the revenge aspect is told in a very short flashback. But, oh well. There is this subplot, and this isn't a spoiler, because I think it's pretty obvious, but we get this subplot with this young blonde chick who is shown with these two guys at different times, but then when she's away from them, we see that they're killed. The second one, the first one is this guy going down on her in an alleyway. We don't see that too often. And then the second time, she gets picked up by a guy in a truck. And then when we cut back to them, she's leaving and crying, covered in blood. So we don't quite know what's going on. As in, they don't tell us, but it's pretty obvious. Come to find out, he does go after Drago, but Drago gives him an address, which is Tracy's address. So he goes to see her, but the girl has already killed Tracy. It's Tracy's daughter, Gertie and Tracy's daughter. So, says Tracy, his long love was killed. He realizes that's his daughter. He takes her, shows her that, oh, I'm your dad, and then they begin a killing spree together. Like, they start killing together at the warehouse. Which is really random. I mean, she's worried, like crying, why haven't you killed me yet? Then he hands her this thing, she looks at it, and then, like that, she's like, apple doesn't fall far from the tree, does it, Daddy? And every time she says Daddy, there's so much emphasis on it. And I didn't care for her performance. I thought she was kind of annoying. And way too much like Harley Quinn. Like, yes, this came out before Suicide Squad, but still, by that I mean, doesn't act so much like what most people think Harley Quinn, like Margot Robbie. He even gives her a sledgehammer, which I was thinking if it was a cartoonishly large sledgehammer, it might have been too much like Harley, so he gives her like a regular one. But still, I mean, she's like skipping around, she's got pigtails, and just laughing and cackling as she's killing, and every time she says Daddy, it sounds, I could just If you replaced the word daddy with Mr. J, it would be Harley. But yeah, I found her to be kind of annoying. And it shows that she's a little twisted anyway, because when she's not killing those two guys, it shows that she gets turned on by cutting her stomach with a straight razor. And she's also known as the happy face killer or smiley face killer, because of the victims we see, she cuts a smile into their face. So she has an MO similar to his. Also, the movie makes it sound like our two leads are going to be abducted or trapped within his lair, this warehouse. But they just kind of go there during the last portion of the film, and it's a cat and mouse game. So the movie doesn't really quite live up story-wise as to what it sells itself as. But I don't really dock points for that as much as I would for any other film, just because it is a low-budget, ultra-low-budget slasher film. And it definitely did deliver on both the slasher and the splatter. I mean, there's even a party one night. All these kids show up at the warehouse, and they just go crazy. Like, she takes her sledgehammer and hits one guy, cuts him open, grabs his intestines, ties it around his neck, and they just go around killing probably a dozen people. And yeah, each kill is, a fountain of blood and just a bunch of gore effects. I do think most of the budget had to have gone towards the gore effects. The only other thing I didn't mention was some of the music. The opening song is pretty cool. I do like the opening song. I don't even remember any of the original, pieces of music, which was done by Christian Day, who scored, I think, all or some of the American Guinea Pig films. But yeah, it all adds up to our two leads going to check out this warehouse because I think they found the party victims there or something. And there's these two cops that go there as well. There's also this realtor with these two property buyers that get killed at the warehouse much prior to this. And yeah, the cat and mouse game. I'm gonna say spoilers here because I'm getting to the end of the film, but don't go into this expecting good acting or even likable characters because we don't really get to know the characters other than the two leads, and there's really not much to them at all. Don't go into it for production value. I mean, it's shot on video, so it doesn't look that great. The sound design is terrible. And story. The only narrative thread would be them trying to get information for this story. That's basically it. And then him finding his daughter. That's just, those are the breadcrumbs throughout the entire film. The only, if that's not enough, then you're not gonna like it. But I mean, if a movie's this low budget, independent, I feel bad faulting it for that. But it is a slasher. It is a splatter film. It really should just be judged on the kills and the gore, which both of them, it goes way, way, way above and beyond what most people are probably expecting. I mean, I've seen films this gory, sure, but not this many kills in a single slasher film. Like I said, at least 24 kills, and at least 75% of those kills are some crazy graphic gore effects. So it definitely delivered. Yeah, a lot of praise went towards Gertie as this great killer clown. In terms of how many people he kills, I guess, but he's not really a character like Pennywise or Art or Twisty or Stitches or even the killer clowns from outer space. But So don't go into it thinking you're gonna get a movie. You know, understand how low budget it is, and just try to watch it for the kills. And yeah, the Harley girl is pretty annoying, but spoilers. The opening of the film shows up close of Gertie applying his makeup with this blonde girl seemingly held captive on a bed. Now we see that his daughter will lay on a bed pretending to be captive so people will help her. And this scene in particular, when we catch up to it, because it does do that thing where it says a week ago, and then we play catch up. He's not applying makeup to himself. They do end up killing Mark, and Gertie dresses him up to look like him and sits him at a table so that when Jen comes in, she... Oh, what does she do? Stab him? Or she does something to him. I don't remember exactly. And the two cops are killed, which I think they all fall for the daughter's trap with her tied up and saying, "Help me." Or her, when they come across her, she's crying and grabs like, help me, I gotta get out. I think all three, the two cops, actually all four, the two cops, Mark and Jen, all fall for it. Which these cops, both of them, and Mark with his gun, all end up shooting. But all the other ones walking around doing their own investigation don't hear shit, which was kind of laughable. But Jen and the daughter get in a fight. She seemingly gets the best of Jen. And then out of nowhere, the daughter just takes whoever's gun and shoots and kills Gertie. Which I think at one point it looks like Gertie's gonna kill her. I don't remember exactly how the scene played out. But here, just out of nowhere, she just... It even happens so fast, no attention's drawn to it. She just, shoots him. And I think it was with one of the cops' guns, so it looks like they killed each other. And she'll be free. But then when she runs outside and crosses the street, she's immediately run over. And we see Jen survived, made it to her car, managed to run her over. So, okay. But yeah, the only big plus I can give this film is the body count and the gore effects. And even the gore effects, I mean, they're not Greg Nicotero, they're not Tom Savini by any means, but they're still fun looking. I mean, they are over the top, they're supposed to be, and in a splatter film, I don't think you have to be ultra realistic. So, I'm pretty lenient on slashers and splatter films. They don't have to be realistic. They're just supposed to be fun and entertaining. So the kills are definitely entertaining. They're definitely gooey, messy, bloody, they're just everywhere. So yeah, everything else is pretty bad, pretty crappy. Very shitty acting, shitty production value. The backstory feels rushed and not even fully put together. I mean, I like what little exposition we have, but it could have been told a little better. I love the idea of a killer clown having this cartoonishly huge, oversized weapon, like a pyramid head-sized cleaver. And, really the only passing grace this movie has that I give it, and why I think it's fun and entertaining, is just the amount of kills is obscene. It's, almost 30 people, and only two scenes, the opening halfway house and the party. Those are the only ones that have multiple people in it to really, rank up your body count. All the other ones are just individual people here and there. And almost all of them get a really crazy, over-the-top gore effect. So, I mean, if it wanted to be a slasher and a splatter film, it succeeds in my book at that. So I can definitely see why and how this became a cult film and why people love it so much. But yeah, that is Marcus Koch's cult clown classic 100 Tears. I have a few more extreme films to get to. I have more coming in, so stay tuned for those, and thank you for watching.